I want to split my presentation in these three parts where I go into market and technology trends that we think are important to watch, how our current products match to that, and then finally how we think or envision how we can bring those two together and offer breakthrough technologies too that help you still compete in a market where things change rapidly. I'm Joachim Werner. I'm the product manager for point of service and retail for the OPS business, Linux and open source business as part of Novell. And yeah, I'll start now with the trends as mentioned. One trend we've heard earlier this morning, and actually we've taken this up quite a few years ago in our product naming. It's not just point of sale anymore, it's point of service. So we get requests from ATM companies in Brazil who are using their ATMs not just to give people access to cash money, but you can buy insurances, you can play the lottery, whatever, because people don't have all these internet devices at home. There's not, mobile devices are not as powerful yet in these emerging markets, so the ATMs play that role. They are asking for virtualization technologies on the ATMs, things that we didn't really imagine. And there are a lot of other examples like that, where a point of service device can be much more than just a cash register. Those devices all get connected. I think I don't have to add more here. This was all also in the Microsoft presentation. Devices being interconnected, connected to the cloud, and so on. Commodity hardware can be found in retail. Vendors like HP or Dell are pushing their commodity hardware into retail, telling people, okay, it's good enough. And I mentioned the Mac example. There are also threats from companies that don't even push their own hardware into that market, but people just take it because they think it's cool to have these machines. And then there are very new approaches like using mobile devices as POS systems. Think about, I think the first iPads that will be used as point of service devices, people come with their iPad in the morning, put them onto some mount, work with them as a point of service device. This will happen, maybe in the next generation. Thin client solutions, actually an idea that IBM brought up with a virtual desktop infrastructure, and which is taken up by retailers, many larger retailers, which like the idea of actually running the application on a blade center somewhere in the back office, so they don't really have to fear about security and so on, and only have very thin clients. Again, this is a danger for somebody who wants to sell large point of service devices for the front end, because people say, okay, I don't need those dual core processors anymore, it's in the back. And then point of service in the cloud, which also sounds a bit strange. Running your point of service application that should be at the point of service somewhere else. But as you will see later, this happens. It's a reality already. What does that mean? Specialized retail ISVs and IHVs really need to demonstrate added value and or better TCO to still compete in that market. Just selling boxes will not help, I guess. End-to-end security becomes essential. Security, especially in Europe, has always been taken a bit lightly. I mean, you don't need to upgrade the point of service. It's not really connected to the internet anyway. Let's just image it once, roll it out, and it will stay like that forever. We are hearing the first big customers do audits when they buy hardware, looking at all the different vulnerabilities in the Linux kernel and telling us, okay, this is not fixed, this is not fixed. It usually is, but they have to learn how exactly we're doing these backports. But these questions weren't asked in the past. So they know about all the security implications of being online, about being connected, and then there's regulations like PCI DSS that were already mentioned by my colleague from Microsoft too. Yeah, and as I said, point of service doesn't end in the store anymore. It can be in the back end, in the back office, in a data center, or even in a public cloud. So let me dive a bit more into this point of service in the cloud age. This is really the vision that we have about how point of service may evolve. Most point of service software at some point will run in a remote cloud. This could be something like a data center of a large retailer, so it's organized like a cloud, but it's a so-called public, a private cloud, not a public cloud. Or for for small shops, they will rent this as a service from a software as a service provider. Large shops will run their own point of service cloud, as I mentioned, but smaller ones will just rent this. And technology like HTML5, where you have limited ways of storing stage, storing application data, let's say the last 5 or 10 transactions, even if the connection goes down, will enable using web-based interfaces even in cases where you can't stay online, where you don't have stable connections all the time. So all the arguments against running the application somewhere else are kind of getting less important because of changes in this technology. Point of service devices will often be mobile or even virtual. When I talk about virtual here, I mean that the device is not really a point of service device, but you're just running your point of service in the browser. So in the morning you come, put your laptop connected. This is not something that will happen at Walmart, but at the small bike shop next door, where the owner, just has one laptop, comes to the shop and uses this virtual POS. Connectivity will often be wireless. So imagine shops that only have a 3G UMTS connection, nothing else. And another thing that changes, because cash money and external peripherals are not that important anymore. Think every single mobile phone is a scanner. You can use the camera nowadays to scan barcodes, so you don't need a barcode scanner. And cash money is replaced by electronic transactions, by credit card transactions. So again, the standard point of service devices may change rapidly. Here, this is just an illustration how point of service for smaller shops could look like. And this is actually not fantasy, but reality already. So in the shop, they have a cash register that is actually running the application in a cloud at a software as a service provider. And they might not even have their own accountant. They might have a tax advisor that is who's working from at home, but they can connect to that application too. It's just a web-based application. Updates are done by the cloud provider. All the application is always on, and you can work from at home. You can do your stock updates, your pricing updates from at home, and so on. There's one vendor called merchantos.com in the US who's pretty successful with that, especially with the low-end market. Interesting enough, bike shops seem to be one of their sweet spots. And down there's a citation from Mercator Advisory Group that also illustrates that industry analysts think that this is a trend that is going to be pretty significant in the future. So now, very big step back to what Novell is doing today, which is not quite as visionary.